Right, let us come. Shudder Leader of the House.
Will the Leader of the House give us the forthcoming business?
Leader of the House.
The business for the week commencing the 6th of January includes Monday the 6th of January, debate on a motion on seizing frozen Russian assets to fund Ukraine, followed by general debate on backlogs in the NHS. The subjects for these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Tuesday the 7th of January, second reading of the Crown Estates Bill, Lords. Wednesday the 8th of January, second reading of the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill. Thursday the 9th of January, general debate on tackling violence against women and girls. Friday the 10th of January, the House will not be sitting. The provisional business for the week commencing the 13th of January will include Monday the 13th of January, business to be determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Tuesday the 14th of January, remaining stages of the Renters' Rights Bill. Wednesday the 15th of January, remaining stages of the Non-Domestics Rating, Multipliers and Private Schools Bill. Thursday the 16th of January, motion to approve the draft deposit scheme for drinks containers, England and Northern Ireland Regulations 2024. Followed by business to be determined by the Backbench Business Committee, unallotted time. Friday the 17th of January, private members' bills. And as it's Christmas, Mr Speaker, members may also wish to know that subject to the progress of business, following the House rising for the summer recess, at the close of business on Tuesday the 22nd of July, the House will return on Monday the 1st of September. The House will then rise for the conference recess on Tuesday the 16th of September and return on Monday the 13th of October.
Leader Jesse Norman.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr Speaker. May I associate myself very strongly with the remarks that you have just made about hospices. You will recall that St Michael's Hospice was a topic of a recent discussion that we had at the dispatch box in Business Questions. Mr Speaker, I feel I must confess, a slight degree of trepidation and nervousness because at the weekend I received two massively welcome Christmas presents with the result of the Manchester Derby and also the defeat, dare I say it, Mr Speaker, of Chorley by Hereford in a tough, hard-fought game at Edgar Street. And I remain worried that I will need all of your legendary reserves of Christmas loving kindness in order to mention this. Mr Speaker, this is the time of year when we think of friends and family, of our armed forces that keep us safe here and overseas, of those who care for others wherever they may be, and the emergency services that protect us all the year round, but especially over the holiday period. I think you will know that in relation to this House, Parliament's own record is not absolutely unblemished when it comes to Christmas. Fuelled by Puritan hostility to public celebration and unseemly revelling, the Long Parliament no less, outlawed the celebration of Christmas in the 1640s. People naturally reacted, notably with the plum pudding riots in Canterbury in 1647, which began with a football game but ended up with a brawl. How very different from the results that weekend, Mr Speaker. Perhaps the worst moment for this House was during the Protectorate, when Parliament sat on Christmas Day 1655 and Colonel John Desborough attempted to impose a decimation tax while many royalists were out sensibly celebrating the Christmas season. A punitive and partisan tax, an unpopular blundering government up to various tricks seeking to rush its business through the Commons while the House's back was turned. How lucky we are, Mr Speaker, that such a thing could never happen today. But my personal favourite is 1659, when the supply of French wines was temporarily cut off, creating absolute mayhem in London and other cities across the country. What to do? There could only be one answer. Members of Parliament should drink Herefordshire cider. It was every bit the equal of Burgundy and Bordeaux, as Roger Bosworth, my predecessor as MP for Hereford in the 1659 Parliament, insisted, and it was the ideal remedy for smoothing away troubles. Now, Bosworth was a medical doctor, so he well knew the life-enhancing benefits of Herefordshire cider, Mr Speaker. Let me say, I think the lesson is clear. I doubt if the plum pudding riots would have happened at all if the people of Canterbury had had Herefordshire cider to drink after the football. I only hope that the Chorley players were able to do the same after that hard-fought game on Saturday. Mr Speaker, to you, to the clerks and the House staff, To all our colleagues across these benches and in the other house, I wish a very merry and Herefordshire-filled Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I too would like to start by wishing you and everybody in the parliamentary community a very merry and restful Christmas. From the doorkeepers to the cleaners, to the police, the clerks, Hansard and the lobby, to the hairdressers and the gardeners. There are so many to thank. And can I also take this opportunity too to thank Katie from my private office, who has led all the preparations for business questions for successive leaders of the House over the last 2 years, and she leaves to pastures new, and we will miss her greatly. Thank you. But I won't join the honourable gentleman in mentioning the Derby match on the weekend if he doesn't mind. But as this is the last business question of the year, let's reflect. It is out with the old, in with the new. And I ended the last Parliament, Mr. Speaker, paying tribute to outgoing members from the last Parliament, and we did lose some very big figures of this place. But come July, we gained the biggest intake of new members in modern history. And it's been really energising to see so many enthusiastic, committed and talented new colleagues. They've all got to work so quickly, and many feel like old hands already. And it's been a whirlwind for them and all of us arriving in government, and I think we all deserve a proper break over Christmas. It's not just been a huge change for Parliament, but a big change in government too. It's been difficult, of course, as we face unprecedented challenges and a very difficult legacy. Trying to return government to the service of ordinary working people, not vested interests, is a big task for us to undertake. But the oil tanker, as they say, has started to move. We're taking on the water bosses to end the scandal of bonuses over investment. We are, for the first time, ensuring our homegrown energy supplies meet our ambitious targets for clean energy by 2030. We're addressing the housing need and the housing crisis with bold action, bringing in new rights for workers and renters, and creating a transport system in service of passengers, not profits. And we're restoring our health and education into world-class services with record levels of investment. But now, Mr. Speaker, there will be many honourable members who will no doubt be in Santa's, or should I say, Mr. Speaker's Christmas good books. Colleagues who ask short topical questions, those who speak through the chair and make sure they're in the chamber for wind-ups, those who wear appropriate shoes, the judges of Per Minister for crowning Mr. Speaker's cat Attlee as the champion, and of course anyone mentioning Chorley in a positive sense, or of course rugby league in a positive sense. But there will perhaps be some who won't be getting a visit from Mr. Speaker's Santa this year. Ministers who don't make statements to Parliament first and instead go on the BBC, hecklers in PMQs, members with pointless points of order, anyone who announces to the media their intention for an urgent question, or those who cross in front of a member as they are speaking, unless we forget any member drinking milk in the chamber, Mr. Speaker. But as someone who was until July the shadow leader of the House, I might give the honourable gentleman opposite a little bit of advice for these sessions, for some of his previous appearances. If he does want me to answer questions, perhaps he could make them a little less long-winded, and perhaps for next year he might not want to contradict his own previous positions quite so often. And going into 2025, he might want to be a little bit more reflective of why his party lost the election. But look, given it's Christmas time, why don't we take one final opportunity to look at their legacy, if you'll forgive me, Mr. Speaker. 12-hour A&E wait times, 11% inflation, 10 Lords defeats on Rwanda, 9 million inactive workers, 8,000 bus routes cancelled, 7 million on waiting lists, 6 councils bankrupt, 5 Prime Ministers toppled, 4 million children in poverty, 3 broken pledges, 2 nurses' strikes, and a Prime Minister at a lockdown party.
Can I also say thank you for the comments? What I would say is Charlie hopefully will get promoted. That will be the gift that we need for the new year. But can I wish all members a Merry Christmas, and let's hope for a very peaceful year. And I want to thank all the staff of this House for all what they do. They're wonderful, whether it's security, wherever we can go around, they matter. And I hope those who are working over Christmas and New Year across the country, we must thank them as well for keeping the lights on, doing all the jobs that we need to be done. We mustn't forget all the people who serve in our armed forces. The fact the police, the ambulance, the hospitals will all be there for us. So I want to thank them as well. And I'd also personally like to thank my team for the support that they give me. So I wish everybody a peaceful New Year when it comes. Right, on around.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Recently, a civil court judge found that Paula Leeson was unlawfully killed by her husband on a holiday abroad. A different verdict to that reached during a criminal trial in 2021, with significant new evidence having emerged. Paula's brother, my constituent, is now pushing for a retrial. Mr. Speaker, Paula died in horrific circumstances, drowned, fully clothed in a swimming pool with 13 separate injuries after her husband had taken out multiple life insurance policies on her. Could the Leader of the House advise me how I might take this issue forward so that Paula and her family get the justice they so desperately deserve?
Well, I'm really sorry to hear of the tragic case of Paula and the suffering that her family must be going through at this awful time. He's raised it on the floor of the House today, and I will certainly take it up with ministers for him, and he will be aware I've just announced a debate on tackling violence against women and girls, something this government is committed to doing.
Maria Goldman, the Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd also like to wish you, all of the clerks and the House staff, a very Merry Christmas, and also add my personal thanks to everybody who's shown such support to the newly elected members of Parliament in their first few months in office. This week's white paper on local government devolution was hotly anticipated, but there's a big problem that it didn't address. Local government finances are in a desperate state, and yesterday's finance settlement announcement does precious little to correct that. Setting aside local council tax increases, my own council, Chelmsford City Council, has calculated that its core spending power has only increased by £100,000 in the past decade. Yet its costs have gone through the roof and it's constantly being asked to do more with less. We are in the midst of a housing crisis and we won't be able to build 1.5 million new homes without the hard work and attention of local government's very talented planners, highways engineers and housing teams. We have a crisis in our special educational needs system and no plans in sight for reform, but we won't be able to fix it without a huge effort from local government professionals working in children's services and education. And our social care system is in crisis, and we won't be able to fix that without the input of the professionals working in local government. So there is plenty for local government to be focusing on, but where's the plan? Instead, the Devolution Directive, accompanied by local government reorganisation, will drag sparse resources away from these issues as councils are forced to focus on new structures, on paying redundancies, and on spending money on rearranging the deck chairs while services the public rely on are made to suffer. Will the Leader of the House ask the Secretary of State to explain why there doesn't appear to be a plan for fixing these things that are broken before giving local government more to do?
Well, can I thank her for those points? But first of all, can I welcome her as one of the new members to this House? And we work alongside each other on the Commission and many other boards of this place, too many to mention. She certainly has taken to this place incredibly well indeed, and really making a mark in what she's doing. And she's right. She is describing the absolutely woeful, absolutely scandalous legacy that we have inherited when it comes to local government funding and, of course, children's services, education and other vital local services that people rely on. We are beginning that work to turn that around. She's right to point out to the record settlement for local government announced in the budget and set out by the Minister this week. On average, 3.5% increase in local authorities. But she will also be aware that we announced an extra £1 billion for special educational needs. But she's right, we need to change the way we're doing things as well. That's why we've got the Children Wellbeing Bill has been introduced this week, which will make some much needed change to our children's services. But it's only when we work at a place-based level we can really get the early intervention and the support that we need to drive down demand and increase outcomes for some of our most vulnerable children. And I hope she'll welcome our plans going forward.
Dr. Tidball.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll take this opportunity to wish all colleagues in the chamber and beyond it a very Merry Christmas. 10 years ago, my constituent, Claire Throssell, promised her sons who died at the hands of their domestically abusive father that no other children would die in the same tragic circumstances that they had. This week has seen the sentencing of Sarah Sharif's father and stepmother who murdered her. Too many children have died at the hands of known domestic abusive parents who've been granted unsupervised contact in the family courts. Will the Leader of the House make time for a debate on changing the law on presumptive contact to prevent further child deaths at the hands of known domestic abusive parents?
Well, the case of her constituent also sounds absolutely awful, and I think we've all been moved and appalled and shocked in many ways by the case of Sarah Sharif and the findings and the sentencing this week. She will know that this government is absolutely committed to ensure that all vulnerable children are safe. We are bringing in reforms, especially to areas like homeschooling, like kinship care, and support for children's services and children's social workers. We brought in a bill this week, the Children Wellbeing Bill, but that's just a start, and I look forward to working with her and colleagues so that we can make sure this never happens again.
Chair of the Backbench Committee, Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in addition to the business that the Leader has announced on Back Business Days, we are trying to find a date for the debate that was delayed from last Thursday because the government put on 3 statements and squeezed the agenda so it couldn't be heard. That's on the performance of the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, which I asked a question about some weeks ago. In addition to those, for Westminster Hall after the Christmas recess, on Thursday the 9th of January, there will be a full day's debate on the impact of conflict on women and girls in Westminster Hall. On the 14th of January in Westminster Hall, a debate on railway services in the South West. And on Thursday the 16th, a debate on government support for the marine renewables industry. And then week commencing on the 21st of January in Westminster Hall, the provision of auditory verbal therapy. And then we obviously offer debates in the normal way, and we are taking them appropriately. Now, in addition, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure if the Leader has seen the rather excellent report produced by the Henry Jackson Society on questioning the number of casualties and deaths there have been in Gaza since the beginning of the war. We are seen to be inching towards what everyone wants to see, which is a ceasefire and the return of the hostages. And can we, of course, wish those hostages at this time of year the very best and hope for them to return to their families. But could the Leader then arrange for a statement when we return on what the position is on the true fact of casualties and deaths in Gaza, rather than the fictitious figures made up by the Ministry of Health controlled by Hamas?
Well, can I thank the Chair of the Backbench Business Committee for announcing some of his forthcoming debates. He will be aware that I did just read out that on Thursday, the 16th of January, there's been an extra backbench business half day allocated to make up for last week, so I hope that satisfies him on that. When it comes to what's happening in Israel, Gaza, I'm sure the whole House will join me and him in wanting to see, hopefully, maybe even over this Christmas period, that we do at last get that much needed ceasefire in the conflict between Israel and Hamas, and that hostages are returned, and that we can start to see the move towards a long-standing peaceful settlement for the region, which we all desperately want.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy Hogmanay when it comes. In my constituency is the rural community of Balquhidder. Since 2018, community volunteers have laid over 36 kilometres of fibre cable to ensure the community has a high-speed internet connection, years ahead of when a commercial operator would have reached the area. Balquhidder have been achieving this hard work with financial support from the government's Building Digitals vouchers. Will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating the volunteers of Balquhidder for all their hard work, and indeed volunteers in all of our communities who are working hard over Christmas for all that they do? And will the Leader make time for a debate on rural broadband provision and mobile telephone coverage so that we can explore how we can help more rural communities like Balquhidder as quickly as is possible get the digital connection many urban communities take for granted?
Well, I'm delighted to join him in congratulating his constituents on working as a community to get that fibre broadband connection that rural communities like his so desperately rely on. It really is the fourth utility, and he's right to point out that the previous government's rollout of broadband in rural communities was far too slow. We do have science questions when we return, but I'll certainly consider his request for a debate.
Pritchard. Speaker, could we have a debate on putting children at the heart of public policy? The Leader mentioned in a statement children, and she mentioned the emerging bill, and she will know that in pre-legislative scrutiny there is an equality impact assessment, and there can be no discrimination on the basis of age. There are two dominant themes so far in these business questions: Herefordshire, and as a Herefordshire boy I'm delighted by that, but also by children. And I just hope the government across departments will look at potentially a new policy of how does this policy, whatever it might be, whatever bill, whatever law, impacts children.
Well, I strongly welcome his comments. Absolutely putting children at the heart of our policy. We have a mission to ensure that opportunity for all, and that every child has the very best start in life, to really galvanise all of those different departments and places around the country. And the Secretary of State and the Secretary of State for Department for Work and Pensions are working closely on a child poverty task force as well. Putting children first is absolutely at the forefront of the mission of this government, and I look forward to working with him on delivering that in future years.
Tanmanjeet Singh Dhesi.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, Mr. Speaker, to you, all the House staff, everybody out there, and in particular my Slough constituents. Mr. Speaker, many of my Slough constituents have contacted me to convey their concerns about the safety of their loved ones, and in particular the well-being of former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, after the killing of several protesters there, and with many more injured and hospitalised, in addition to their anxieties about abductions, torture and transnational repression. So can the Leader of the House please ensure that our UK government ministers make representations to their Pakistan counterparts so that democratic norms, press freedoms and the human rights of all are protected?
Well, he'll be aware that the British government and ministers are in constant dialogue with counterparts in around the world and in Pakistan, and we do expect democratic norms to be upheld in Pakistan as we do in many other countries, and I will ensure that he gets a proper ministerial response on the issues he raises.
Lisa Small.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday saw yet another road traffic accident on Strines Road in my constituency, resulting in passengers being injured and needing to be taken to Stepping Hill Hospital. The Leader of the House will know that speeding is a problem across the country on our roads, and she'll also know that Transport for Greater Manchester says that to have a fixed speed camera, you need to have 3 serious accidents before you can even consider it. The local community on Strines Road know that it's far too early to determine exactly what caused yesterday's accident, but speeding has been a persistent issue on that road for years, and they've been working with local councillors Colin McAllister and Sian Alexander to tackle this. could the Leader of the House please ask a Transport Minister to come to this House to explain the progress they're making in tackling speeding across our communities?
Well, she raises a really important issue for her constituents that I know well as near neighbours. In fact, my brother is a constituent of hers and was very pleased that last week she raised the problems with the trains in her constituency. And today, a very important matter of speeding, which comes up in this House regularly. This government is committed to tackling road traffic accidents and speeding on our roads, and I will make sure that the Minister has heard her question today and she gets a proper reply.
Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. FSB Wales is asking people to join its £10 pledge by spending at least £10 with a small business during December. I'm very much looking forward to getting out onto Bangor High Street on this weekend to finish my Christmas shopping, and especially to visiting the new Obsession menswear shop, which has just opened in the Daniel Centre. Could I ask the Leader of the House to join me in taking the £10 pledge and to wishing all small businesses in Bangor and Aberconwy a very Merry Christmas?
Well, I'll be joining her in the mad dash for some last-minute Christmas presents this weekend, and I'm hoping to get some that cost £10 or less. In the current climate is quite difficult, but I absolutely join her in supporting local businesses in her constituency. And maybe I could try a few Christmas puns, Mr. Speaker, but there's no time like the present to shop in Bangor, maybe?
Robbie Moore. See how you go on there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many businesses are going to be severely negatively impacted by the government's announcement on changes to inheritance tax through business property relief. I know that those in the hospitality sector, hoteliers, breweries, and even manufacturing, engineering and tech businesses in my constituency have contacted me with their deep concerns that this is going to have on their businesses. So I was wondering if the Leader of the House is aware of any economic analysis or economic modelling that has been done by the government specifically on the negative impact this will have. And I see that the Business Secretary is sat next to her, and I was wondering what discussions or impacts was the Business Secretary or even the Chancellor aware of that their announcements in the budget will specifically have on the negative impact on these particular businesses?
Well, look, we fully support family businesses and other businesses that are vital to our economy. We've had to take some very difficult decisions in the budget recently to deal with the really severe legacy that we were dealt with and the chronic big black hole that there was, I'm afraid, in the economic spending, and we had to find ways to make sure that our public services had the investment that they needed going forward. And he'll be aware that actually when you take into account all the other factors, including personal allowances and so on, that many fewer family businesses will be affected than I think he might think.
Have a little back.
Mr. Speaker, and a Merry Christmas to you and all staff. Mr. Speaker, I'll also put on record that my mum is a waspy woman. My right honourable friend will know full well the strength of feeling regarding this week's announcement of no compensation for the waspy women. The Ombudsman was clear Parliament should make the decision on remedy. Parliament has not. Will my honourable friend please find time for a debate so we can do as the Ombudsman asked us to do?
Leader.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for that question? And I know that this is a really big issue for many of our constituents, many women right across the country, which has spanned multiple parliaments. And I know that many will be very disappointed with the announcement that came this week, and we don't underestimate the strength of feeling and upset that people will be feeling. And although I know it's difficult for people to hear, but paying a flat rate compensation to all women born in the 1950s at a cost of up to £10.5 billion would not be a fair or proportionate use of public money, and the government doesn't accept the Ombudsman's findings around that remedy being necessary in this case. But colleagues can apply for debates on these matters in the usual way.
Chris Law.
Thank
I'm extremely grateful, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, beg your pardon. You're not Chris Law.
You make wish to be Chris Law, but you're not, the real Chris Law.
Mr. Speaker, I thought there was a doppelganger in the room there for a second. Mr. Speaker, just following from the previous question, in the week leading up to Christmas, a new government can make political choices, and you would have thought in the week before Christmas there had been positive choices, things that people take home to be grateful for and to be happy about on Christmas Day. However, as just mentioned, millions of women across this country, 1950s born women, have been affected quite adversely with their state pensions, many of which are working in ill health and continue working in ill health. And they were living with hope for many years during a protracted, passionate and very reasonable campaign for fairness and justice. And on Tuesday this week, they were told they were getting none of it. We have an ombudsman who's made it very clear, very fair and very decent what the amount of money should be in compensation, and that there was errors made by the DWP at the time. Just on this point, since Tuesday, not only have I had emails, but we've had MPs, particularly from the government benches, who've been deleting pages on their websites, on their Twitter accounts. The very things where they were campaigning out there with waspy women, getting their photographs taken, doing videos, doing messaging, all the rest have deleted it. They now have no voice. They're frightened to even raise it in this House. So can I urge the Business Secretary, the Leader of the House, to have a debate as soon as possible, a meaningful debate in government time. No ifs, no buts. We all need to have our say in this. Thank you.
Well said.
Well, as I just said, I understand the strength of feeling about this issue. The Secretary of State came to this House first to make the announcement to this House, as is absolutely appropriate, especially when it comes to an parliamentary ombudsman report that was laid to this House last March. The government has considered that debate in full and given it a great deal of thought, and there was time for people to ask questions on Tuesday. But of course, debates can be brought forward in many different ways to the floor of the House, and I'm sure this issue will continue to be debated.
Clive Effort.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wonder if my honourable friend could arrange a debate in government time in the new year on the funding of political parties. I mean, I wonder what it means when a party talks about sovereignty and then is willing to sell itself entirely to a foreign owner, and when it uses slogans like "take back control." Now, we've had the controversy of the Conservative Party, who are fond of taking a few bob from Putin's oligarchs. We've seen the recent scandals around Chinese trying to influence politics in this country. So I think we need to make sure, as this government, that we're saying that our politics is not up for sale, and I think we should have a debate about that in this House.
Leader.
Well, I think he makes some extremely valid points around our democracy and our sovereignty in this country, and I see the honourable gentleman, the leader of the Reform Party, is in his... Deputy. Sorry, Deputy. He gave up his leadership role for somebody else, I remember, at some other point. Anyway, the Deputy Leader is, for now, has made his point. But the honourable gentleman will be aware that foreign donations are not permitted into our electoral system, and that is absolutely right, as it should be. Our democracy does face daily threats from rogue state actors and others trying to disrupt our democracy and to spread mis and disinformation, and these are issues that we should be very alive to.
I think I've got to go to Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, I was, I think, along with millions of other British citizens, shocked to read the expose in the Times newspaper that Britain has become the Western capital for the use of Sharia courts. Wow. And I think that I'd like to ask the Leader if we could have a debate on this issue in the new year, because in my view, the use of Sharia courts to make unofficial rulings about marriages, divorces and family life have no place in the United Kingdom.
Can I welcome him to his place? Of course, I'm sure his leader is somewhere else far more important, either either in the studios or abroad or somewhere else, getting an airing. But I hear what he has to say, and I'm sure we would all agree that the courts in this country that are recognised are the UK and British and English courts, and that's absolutely right.
Alison Griffith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In West Sussex, the number of EHCPs has risen from 3,362 in 2015 to 7,684 in 2024. That's 228% increase. With schools increasingly stretched, there's an inevitable cost to children, both those with and without special needs. I've recently met with Senko leads from two excellent schools in my constituency, Bishop Tufnell and Edward Bryant Academy, to discuss the funding and staffing challenges that they face. They aren't specialist support centres, and local specialist schools are oversubscribed. And they are reliant on local charities such as the Rotary Club, who work tirelessly to raise money to improve their facilities. But they can't assist with the impact of the National Insurance contribution rise on staffing levels and staffing retention and the temporary contracts and burnout. So will the Leader of the House commit to a debate to consider a sustainable future funding model for schools with Senko provision?
I think I'd put in for maybe a German debate.
Well, look, the issue of SEND does come up in these sessions very often. I would gently remind the Honourable Lady that the SEND system that we inherited in this government was in crisis, with spiralling costs getting higher and higher, with outcomes getting worse and worse. And there's no question that the special educational need provision in this country is in need of serious investment and serious reform, and that's what this government intends to do.
Gurinder Singh Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, can I wish you a very Merry Christmas and everybody across the state and a Happy New Year, and particularly to all those who will be working over the holiday period. Mr. Speaker, I had the privilege recently of attending the conference organised by Sikh Women's Aid, at which they launched their recent report into the recent comprehensive survey, which looked into domestic abuse, sexual abuse, faith-based and spiritual abuse, and barriers facing victims and survivors. The report details a number of recommendations, which include ring-fencing funding stream for by and for support services, inclusion of the experiences of Sikh Punjabi women in policy advocacy, a legal definition of spiritual abuse, and coordinated and joined up response to Sikh Punjabi victims and survivors. Will the Leader of the House join me in welcoming the important work done by Sikh Women's Aid, particularly in view of the threats, intimidation and violence that their trustees and staff have faced? And will the Leader make time for a debate on the importance of by and for support organisations? Thank you.
Can I just tell each other, we've got a lot on this afternoon. I want to try and get right. If we can try and be a bit shorter in asking the question. Please, Leader.
And I'll be trying to be shorter in answering them as well. But I strongly welcome the work being done by the Sikhs Women's Aid to highlight some of the barriers that women face in reporting abuse. He will know that this government treats violence against women and girls as a key mission to tackle it. And we have just announced a debate on violence against women and girls when we return.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is now over 6 months since the autocratic ruler Sheikh Hasina fled Bangladesh amidst an outcry of human rights abuses, including the killing of hundreds of protesters under her regime. Will the Leader of the House provide time to consider how the UK is supporting the people of Bangladesh in the pursuit of democracy and freedom from oppression, including assessing the UK's historic role with regards to the deposed regime, working with the Bangladeshi authorities regarding allegations of corruption and embezzlement in relation to members of that form of government who are in the UK, and addressing the misinformation and the serious falsehoods being perpetrated that are currently fueling violence and instability in the region?
Leader. Well, she will know that the British government engages in ongoing dialogue with Bangladesh and other countries, and we expect to see democratic norms in Bangladesh and as we do in many other, every other country as well. And that includes freedoms, press freedoms and everything else. She might want to be aware that Foreign Office questions are when we return, and she could raise that with the Foreign Secretary then.
Sir John Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mindful of the Leader's advice, I am suitably booted. I am speaking deliberately through the chair, and of course, I have Chorley imprinted on my heart. So can I, in that spirit, can I ask you, the House, for a debate on the WASPy women? I know she said we can apply, and I was going to actually ask something quite different. But given what the Honourable Lady said, what the Honourable Gentleman said, it is essential that when we have an Ombudsman report of this kind of seriousness, I've rarely seen one in my time here, that we have the chance to debate this. If she doesn't offer one, I'll apply for one to you, Madam Speaker, immediately following business questions.
Goodness, Leader.
Well, can I first of all thank him? He is a very honourable member of this chamber, and I'm sure he's very much, not just in the Speaker, but the Deputy Speaker's good books, and certainly on their Christmas card list, because he's always got the right attire and always speaks through the chair and asks punchy, short questions. But look, on the serious issue that he raises, I know that the strength of feeling is widespread and that people want to air those views, and I'm sure that there will be time, because I'm sure that colleagues will apply for debates in the usual way.
Erin Moon.
For us, Nadelik Lowen, Merry Christmas, Madam Deputy Speaker. As we look forward to next year, 2025 could and should be a momentous year for Cornwall, with our unparalleled resources of renewable energy and critical minerals. Does the Leader of the House agree with me that the time has come to pass from Westminster to Cornwall the powers and support needed to deal with our unique set of challenges and unleash the Cornish Celtic tiger?
Leader. Well, can I take this opportunity for congratulating the Honourable Gentleman for regularly coming to these sessions and elsewhere, and for consistently raising the issues of critical minerals and how important they are to the future of Cornwall and to, indeed, to our mission to deliver clean energy superpower by 2030. Actually, the Business Secretary is in his place next to me today, and I'm sure he's heard what he's called for. And I hope that through the devolution white paper that we launched this week, the voice of Cornwall will be heard loud and strong.
Martin Wickens.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last week, I called in on the drop-in session organised by Alzheimer's Research UK and also prostate cancer. And when you attend these drop-in sessions, you repeatedly hear appeals that we go in for early diagnosis. And it's the same message now as we were getting many years ago. Could the Leader find time for a debate about how we prevent illness by early screening and diagnosis?
Well, he's absolutely right to point out that diseases like dementia and others would be much better treated with early diagnosis. This government is absolutely committed to early intervention, early diagnosis, services out in the community where people can get the appointments that they need and get that early diagnosis, and that's what the government is continuing to deliver.
John Slinger.
Deputy Speaker. Would the Leader join me in thanking A.D. Robinson and his hard-working and compassionate team at Rugby Food Bank? Does she agree that while this displays the best of human nature in such a rich and civilised country as ours, their efforts shouldn't really be needed? And would she further agree that this is the government that's taking action to reduce food poverty and poverty with our Child Poverty Task Force, free breakfast clubs, the Renters' Rights Bill, pension triple lock? I could go on, but I won't, Madam Deputy Speaker. And that we're doing this so ultimately people don't need charity for what are the fundamentals of life. And could time be found to further debate such actions?
Leader. Well, I wholeheartedly agree with him, and at this time of year, many of us in this House visit our local food banks at Christmas, and he's absolutely right. It's shocking in the year of 2024 that food banks are needed at all, let alone are so prevalent, and he highlights many of the actions this government is taking to reduce their need.
We're a Hoghouse.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I wish you, your fantastic staff and colleagues across the House a Merry Christmas. Madam Deputy Speaker, Bathford Village Shop and Cafe, a community-run volunteer enterprise, recently won an award for their fantastic work that they're doing to support the elderly, the lonely and the vulnerable. However, they're risking to lose their premises. The 150 million Community Ownership Fund, which was due to run until March 2025 but was suspended because of the election, would make the vital difference between survival or closure. Can we have an update on the Community Ownership Fund?
Well, can I thank her for raising the plight of her constituents and the work, the valuable work that they're doing to support the elderly in her community. I will make sure that she gets an update in short order on the future of the Community Ownership Fund.
Tracy Gilbert.
May I take this opportunity to wish you and all the staff and everyone working across the estate a very Merry Christmas. This year, Royal Mail's Christmas stamps honour some of the most magnificent cathedrals across the UK, and St Mary's Episcopal Church in the West End of Edinburgh and my constituency in Edinburgh North and Leith is one of them. The cathedral was consecrated in 1879 and is the only cathedral in Scotland that has 3 spires. I'm sure my right honourable friend will join with me in welcoming this recognition, but unfortunately every year many churches are forced to close, with over 3,000 in the last 10 years. Will my right honourable friend look to schedule a debate on government time to look at the future of churches across the UK?
Well, I join her in congratulating St Mary's Episcopal Cathedral for appearing on the stamps this year. She raises a really important issue that many others across the House do raise about the future of churches and our places of worship, and I'm sure that as the chair of the Backbench Business Committee is in his place, I'm sure he would welcome an application.
Helen Morgan.
Since being elected, I've been contacted by a number of women who have left their partners or husbands because of domestic abuse, and then have had that abuse frankly perpetuated through the process of dealing with the family court, whether that's through the process of determining access to their children or determining the maintenance payments that they receive. Given the obvious concern about the prioritisation of access over child safety and some of the issues that female constituents have raised with me, and the fact that the family court operates in secrecy, so they are gagged and bound from doing anything about it, can we have a debate in government time to consider how women are being treated in this process and how we can do better?
Leader.
Well, she raises an all too familiar story that many of us will be familiar with as constituency MPs, and she'll know that this government takes domestic abuse and domestic violence incredibly seriously. We have a very challenging target to halve violence against women and girls over the next few years. We have forthcoming a crime and policing bill and a victims bill. I think some of the measures that she's asked about will be included in those.
I have 17 colleagues left and sort of around 15 minutes. If we're sharp, I can try and get everybody in. Joanna Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and may I take the opportunity to wish yourself and all staff across the parliamentary estate a very happy Christmas. In the last week, my constituents in Paisley and Renfrewshire South have received the devastating news that the SNP-controlled Integrated Joint Board running across Renfrewshire are planning to make £19.1 million worth of cuts to health and social care provision across Renfrewshire. This is on the back of them having already closed Montrose Care Home in my constituency earlier this year. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that given the Scottish Government have just received the biggest funding settlement since devolution, that they should perhaps use that money to protect the most vulnerable constituents in Paisley and Renfrewshire South?
Leader.
Well, I absolutely agree with her. The Scottish Government has received a record settlement from this government as a result of our recent budget, and they really have got no excuse when it comes to making the cuts that she describes in health and social care.
Caroline Borden.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Large areas of rural South Hams in my constituency of South Devon are still struggling with almost prehistoric broadband speeds after the company that was tasked with rolling out full fibre broadband astonishingly was allowed to walk away from its contract after building the easy urban bits and leaving all the hard-to-reach areas behind. So will the Leader of the House agree to a debate in government time on how the government can underwrite the rollout of high-speed broadband in areas that are not commercially viable? It's as important for the rural economy as electricity.
Leader.
Well, she's absolutely right. Broadband, especially to rural communities, but to any community, really is the fourth utility and vital to her constituents and many others in carrying out their daily lives and doing the things that they need to do. We have inherited a pretty poor record when it comes to rollout, but we are trying to speed these things up through Project Gigabit and the shared rural network. But I've heard her request for a debate.
Sarah Edwards.
Speaker, I wish to raise the case of my constituent Mitch Middleton, who has primary central nervous system lymphoma refractory. This is in his brain. Following radiotherapy, the cancer has returned and the NHS has given him 6 to 12 months to live. The treatment that he needs is called CAR-T and is available on the NHS but not for his circumstances. Yet haematologists know that it can be used to treat it. The price tag is about £475,000. Too expensive, he's having to fundraise for his treatment and fly abroad. Therefore, could I ask the Leader of the House if she can find time to allow a debate in the House around the licensing and access to treatment for cancer care in this House, as there are more people who sadly may not be able to access the care and treatment that they need at present?
Leader.
Well, my heart and thoughts go to the family of Mitch Middleton and to her constituent dealing with this, and improving diagnosis and treatment to cancer patients, as she knows, especially those with rare cancers, is something that this government wants to get right. The issue of access to treatments and medicines on the NHS is a regular matter that gets raised with me in this House, so I would encourage her to apply for a bigger debate on this matter.
Thank
you, Deputy Speaker. And can I wish you and all an Nadolig Llawen Merry Christmas. The Leader of the House will be aware of the challenges facing Welsh farmers. Around 30% of Welsh agricultural land is rented. APR changes in the autumn budget will force the sale of family tenants' farms on Ynys Môn, displacing generational farming. It is disappointing that no Wales-specific impact assessment has been made. So, can we have a debate in government time to discuss the budget impact on Welsh farming?
Well, this government supports farmers, supports our rural communities. We've put in an extra £5 billion for the farming budget over 2 years. That's one of the biggest increases that farming has seen. But I will ensure that her question today is heard by the relevant minister and she gets a response.
Gareth Snell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Could I ask the Leader if she could arrange for either a statement or a debate in government time on the regulation of houses of multiple occupancy? Without an Article 4 directive in Stoke-on-Trent, we're now at the whim of developers who buy family homes or terrace properties and then convert them using permitted development rights. It has a huge impact on amenities and on community feeling, and I think this is something that as a government we could do a lot with.
Well, he's absolutely right. I think we all see the impacts of permitted development rights and HMOs on our communities where they go unchecked. They can cause real problems and also have detrimental impacts on the housing supply in the local area. He will be aware that the Renters' Rights Bill covers some of these issues, and we are due to consider report and final stages of that bill when we return.
Claire Young.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and Merry Christmas to you and everyone across Parliament and in my constituency. Thornbury and Yate residents driving home for Christmas will face a second festive season of chaos on local roads, with at least one more still to come, thanks to the ongoing closure of the A432 M4 overbridge. There's no compensation for the small businesses affected or for local residents living on the now choked local country lanes. Given that hundreds, if not thousands, of these post-tensioned bridges were built in the 60s, 70s and 80s, this is horror that could be coming to many constituencies. But I've so far been unable to secure a debate on this important topic. Will the Leader of the House ensure that we can discuss this issue in the new year?
Leader. Well, I know she's applied for a debate on this important matter affecting her constituency on a number of occasions, and I know the Deputy Speaker is in her chair and has heard her appeal again today. And road closures of this kind, where bridges need this sort of work, can be absolutely devastating for local communities and businesses, and I certainly will help her in trying to secure an adjournment debate.
Amanda Morton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Many of my constituents are concerned about the proposed Aquin interconnector, with the planning decision sitting at the moment with the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero, and I believe in consultation with the MOD after security concerns were raised on this project. After the last government kicked this decision down the road, I completely understand this government is rightly doing things by the book to ensure the consultation is going on. However, would the Leader of the House allocate time to ensure that DESNES and MOD are working efficiently and cooperatively towards a judgment on this? And could she seek clarity, please, on when we can expect the consultation to conclude and a decision to finally be made on this project?
Leader. Well, I'm sure she'll appreciate that I can't comment on a live planning case. However, I do understand that the Attorney General's office has now appointed a representative to act on behalf of Aquin Limited in relation to this matter, and I hope that she will get the answer she needs soon.
Happy Christmas, Jim Shannon.
Happy Christmas to you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and everybody in the House. I'll probably say it later on at the adjournment debate. In the Partapure area of Meerut district in Uttar Pradesh, the police uncovered a so-called religious conversion meeting on the 8th of December 2024, where approximately 50 Hindus were found participating peacefully in a Bible reading session. Nothing sinister, nothing subversive. Pastor Vineet, along with 14 associates, was arrested under Sections 3 and 5 of the Uttar Pradesh Freedom of Religion Act. Pastor Vineet, who converted to Christianity a decade ago, had been organising similar prayer meetings in various locations prior to his arrest. Will the Leader of the House join me in condemning such violations of freedom of religion and belief? And will the Leader of the House ask the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office to raise this issue with its counterparts in India? Thank you so much.
Well, can I take this opportunity to wish the Honourable Gentleman a Merry Christmas as well. I shall miss him over the next 2 or 3 weeks, as we won't have a business question, and he's nothing if not consistent, and he absolutely yet again raises another important issue relating to the freedom of religion and belief. And he'll know that the Foreign Office ministers recently held a round table with a range of faith leaders in Delhi to discuss many of these issues, and we will continue to raise concerns with the Indian government.
Elaine Stewart.
Deputy Speaker. Last week, working for Wallace Town, a project in my constituency of Ayrcarrot and Cumnock was awarded the Scottish Public Service Award for Community Engagement. Another project, Tailored Jobs, was the runner-up in the Champion Diversity and Inclusion Award category. Would the Leader of the House join me in recognising their hard work and commitment to public service over the last year?
Well, I'm delighted to join with her in congratulating all those in her constituency and indeed in everybody else's constituency, especially at this time of year, who do fantastic volunteering and public service work and contribute greatly to public life in their communities.
Alistair Strathallan.
And happy Christmas to you and your team. Hitchin's fantastic festive knitted postbox topper campaign by Sue, Karen and other brilliant local volunteers has raised thousands for a local Send youth group, Hitchin Choices. I had the pleasure of visiting them last week, and while quite quickly learned that I need to practice my ping pong skills a lot more before going back, it was clear to see how valued it was by the young people who attended. So will the Leader of the House joining me in urging people to back this campaign, and could we have a statement from the Secretary of State about how we can do more to support such youth groups as part of our wider Send reforms?
Leader. Well, in the spirit of Christmas, and as this was a sort of knitted postbox campaign, I did think maybe in his constituency we could say, let it sow, let it sow, let it sow, maybe? Oh, sorry, the puns are just getting worse. But look, he's raised a really important matter about children needing the support, and we've had many of these issues raised today, and I'm sure that if many members from across this House came together and applied for a backbench business debate on how we support the most vulnerable children and those with special educational needs, it would be very well subscribed.
We're introduced.
Deputy Speaker, Christmas is of course the time for musical festivities. One of my constituents in Wolverhampton West runs Revolver Records, which is Europe's oldest indie rock label of bands like the Stone Roses, the Scorpions and Tony Hadley. And they've released 7,000 albums over the past 42 years. My constituent has highlighted the problem of independent music publishers not being paid for the use of copyright music material. Does the Leader of the House agree that we need to support our businesses so that they receive payments that they are due? And this also includes businesses in the music industry. And will she please make time for a debate in the House about supporting our independent music publishers?
Well, can I join him in congratulating Revolver Records? And as a Mancunian child of the 80s and 90s, I bought the original Stone Roses record, Revolver Records produced, so particularly pleased to do that. But he raises a really important matter about copyright and how the music industry is changing with music streaming and so on. And I know these issues are regularly raised in this House, and I will support him in doing so.
Mark Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I wish you a Merry Christmas, the excellent House staff a Merry Christmas, and of course the Speaker's staff who've shown extraordinary patience with me as I've asked many, many questions about how this place works. In my constituency, I'm supporting somebody who has a real problem with cyberbullying. Her daughter has been suffering for over a year now with persistent online abuse. Things have gotten so bad that doctored letters purporting to be from the NHS and the police have been sent to her, and edited photos have also been sent round her school. Given what's happened, will the Leader of the House grant a debate in this place on the urgent need to tackle cyberbullying and online harassment, especially in educational settings?
Yeah. Well, can I first of all congratulate the Honourable gentleman as a new member in this House. He has been, I think, one of the best attenders both in business questions and many other statements here. He's really got his feet under the table, so to speak. He raises an important issue of cyber bullying. He will know that this government is ensuring the effective implementation of the Online Safety Act, and many of those measures are coming on stream in the coming months. But there is also a Westminster Hall debate likely, I think, soon.
Poynton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Livingston has a considerable issue with the rack concrete in our public buildings, our social housing stock and in many private homes too. For the first two categories, remedies are put in place, but the same cannot be said for private housing, such as in Chestnut Grove and Livingston, where people bought their homes in good faith, homes surveyed by reputable surveyors, but they've now lost almost half the value due to rack. So will the Leader of the House agree to debate on possible remedies for homeowners in Livingston and beyond who are in this predicament, and the potential role of the private sector, local government, devolved governments and central government in remedying this situation?
Leader.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear of the ongoing situation for many of his constituents with the slow remedying of rack in their homes and their buildings. He'll appreciate that this is a devolved matter, but the Housing Department are engaging with the Scottish Government on respective approaches to rack, and I hope this will speed up remediation soon.
Jake Richards.
Residents in Maltby are frankly furious about new plans for the old Maltby pit. I'm joining them to campaign ferociously against the plans. The environmental risk is too great. The amount of lorries going through the village would be hugely damaging to the community. Will the government provide time for Parliament to properly look into this issue and to ensure that we can all stand up for Maltby?
Leader.
Well, you'll appreciate that I can't comment on specific plans, but I do understand that Rotherham Council's consultation on this application has been extended into the new year following concerns that he has raised, and I'm sure that he would welcome that. He'll be aware that we are bringing forward next year a very significant piece of legislation, the Planning and Infrastructure Bill, where he may want to raise these issues further.
Luke Meyer.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On Saturday, over 100 veterans gathered in my constituency to pay tribute to the late Sam Morgan, a former Royal Marine who tragically took his own life aged just 36. I've met with a local group of veterans, and the message I've heard from them loud and clear is we must do more to address the issue of veteran mental health. I'm very grateful to the Veterans Minister who's in his place for agreeing to meet with me and my honourable friend, the member for Redcar, to discuss this issue with local veterans. But can the Leader of the House give her assurance that this issue will be treated as a priority by this government?
Leader.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear of the case of his constituent Sam Morgan. That was really tragic to hear, and the mental well-being and support for veterans is a priority for this government, and the Veterans Minister is in his place and has heard his call today. We have laid on a number of debates around the issues facing veterans, but I will ensure that we give further consideration to future debates as well.
Joe Morris.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and a Merry Christmas to yourself and to all the staff and members of this House. Whether it's delays from Barden Mill Station or it's patchy bus service cutting off villages like Hedden on the Wall and Ovington, public transport in rural areas like the Tyne Valley simply wasn't a priority for the previous government. No. So can the Leader of the House assure me that we will make progress on this issue and possibly make way for a debate in government time on the importance of economic growth and commuter well-being in our most rural constituencies?
Leader. Well, can I first of all congratulate the Honourable Gentleman on his recent engagement to our colleague Hannah, who, when I congratulated her, she did say it was about time. So anyway, at least he got there in the end, Madam Deputy Speaker. But look, he absolutely raises what gets raised with me on many occasions, the woeful infrastructure that many of us experience in the north of this country is holding our regions and our constituents back, and that's why we are prioritising transport infrastructure. We've got huge investment going in, and I'm sure that he will work with the Transport Secretary and others to ensure that that takes effect in his constituency.
The honour of the last business question of 2024 goes to Tom Rutland.
Madam Deputy Speaker, and a very Merry Christmas to you. Like many MPs this year, I held my first Christmas card competition and was blown away by the talent from local primary school children. So I wondered if the Leader of the House might indulge me and join me in congratulating the winners Franco, Akithra and Lauren, and extending a massive thank you to the teachers in my constituency who work tirelessly day in, day out, not only to educate our young people, but to unlock their potential and creativity.
Well, I think many of us undertake Christmas card competitions every year, and it's one of the most wonderful things that we do as MPs, that we take part in. And I want to take this opportunity to not just congratulate his Christmas card winners, but my own from Seymour Road Academy in Manchester, and also congratulating him on getting the very last business question under his belt for 2024. And can I just take this opportunity, as you weren't in the chair earlier, Madam Deputy Speaker, to wishing you a very, very Merry Christmas as well.
Well, that concludes business questions, and I thank the Leader for being so patient. She's been on her feet for over an hour. If I let the front bench shuffle over a few seconds so we can prepare for the business statement.